designing a value stream. And that value stream doesn't have to be manufacturing. It can be any kind of, any value stream, really. Office. In fact, I'll share an example with you in just a few minutes of administrative process. But the point is that it needs to be engineered or designed. And if you can do that correctly, following the principles and methodology that we're going to share with you in this webinar, then you'll end up with a value stream that can accomplish its goal of producing output, right, a product or a service with a minimum of delays or waiting, and highest possible quality and highest possible productivity, or maybe we're calling that confusion. So minimum of confusion. People are able to add value continuously. So what's not to like about that, correct? So let's get going. Now, before we start sharing with you the exact methodology that we're going to present, I wanted to share with you a presentation we came across a few months ago from a group in Europe. And the point they were making in this presentation was that there may be some confusion that was actually, I don't know if it was a conspiracy or controlled by Taiichi Ono and some of the founders at Toyota, but it all seemed to make some sense that there could be some truth to this. And basically the idea was that Taiichi Ono and Toyota in Japan had come up with this methodology. And he said that he was happy to share it with other Japanese companies, but he was very concerned that if you shared it too widely, that folks in the US and Europe and other parts of the world could be competing with them by adopting the same kind of methods. So what he did was he tried to throw potential competitors off the track by kind of telling them a part of the story, but not all of the story. And what he did was basically convince people that lean equals eliminating waste. And you see that all the time, do you not? Lean, what does lean mean? Definition of lean is focus on elimination of waste. So that's not an untrue statement, but it's not the entire picture. And internally then, what they were really focusing on at Toyota was not so much eliminating waste, although that was certainly part of it, but they wanted to design a river system. He called it a river system. And in fact, when Gerard and I first started working in this field, the name for what we now call lean was flow manufacturing. So flow manufacturing, and that's what they wanted to achieve. And he says here...
I don't know if you can hear me now. Yeah, I came back. I don't know what happened. As soon as the presentation started, I could hear you, and I was just planning to jump in there. And whether or not this idea of a conspiracy is true or not, that actually doesn't matter. What matters is that the focus needs to be primarily on flow. And if you only focus on elimination of waste, you will have an undisciplined approach to the improvement of your line and of your value stream. And I believe that is the morale of that story. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Corollary, Richard?
Yeah, and if you want to, by the way, go back to the source document, the source presentation, the URL was really long and impossible. But if you just do a Google search on the phrase I have here at the bottom of the screen, did Toyota fool the lean community? Just do a Google search on that, and it'll come right to the top of the list, and you can check out this interesting presentation.
Yeah. But, so look at it as a provocative statement rather than a statement of fact. Right. I really cannot tell if Taiichi Ono tried to send us all in a wild goose chase, but it is true that you get to see places where they focus on elimination of waste only and not on flow, and they end up with what you could call pockets of excellence, but no improvements to the entire
islands of excellence, or silos of excellence. Yeah.
There you go.
And by the way, the other expression you hear a lot is Six Sigma is focused on quality. Well, again, it's not an entirely untrue statement, but that somehow implies that lean is not concerned about quality. And tell that to Toyota, right? Tell that to... So with that, let's continue on. So here's the image, mental image of a river. right? And this is what we have been talking about so far, and which we'll expand upon. But the rocks then would be considered the waste, and the water or the flow would be the workflow, right? That we're trying to optimize into a continuously flowing stream. And the other aspect that's sometimes ignored when you look at traditional lean philosophy is the size of the river. Is that important? And we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but we just want to make the point that yes, because today's world, fixed costs are a much bigger percentage of the total product cost than they used to be in the past. You know, overhead and capital equipment and robotics and automation and all those things. The size of the river does make a difference in terms of your profitability, because you have to have enough volume, right? You have to be big enough to be able to support this fixed cost percentage of your total product cost, which is a very different kind of percentage than it was, say, 50 years ago. So just wanted to make that comment. So it's not entirely just about the river. It's about the size of the river also is important.
All right? Anybody who knows anything about hydraulics, right, knows that the diameter of the pipe is directly related to the speed of flow. And what we need to do is to, first of all, visualize your value stream as a river flowing in the direction of the customer, right? The customer is at the sea. You will hear us if you come to one of our classes or take our online workshops, talking about upstream, downstream in the direction of the flow, in the direction of the customer, and upstream going the other way. And the size of the pipe, the diameter of the pipe needs to be designed, and that is what we do. We calculate the number of resources necessary to process the volume that you want to satisfy customer demand. So that is the importance of the size of the river. Think of it as a flow system. It's flowing towards the customer.
Okay. The other point we want to make before we get into the details of how you actually do this is to point out that there are a couple different improvement methodologies. They're mutually supportive, but they are different. The first one is what we call Kaizen, so continuous improvement. But Kaizen, as is most commonly used, kind of refers to individual contributions, or the spirit of improvement, the suggestion of small improvement ideas. All of that's very important, and that's what we're calling Kaizen. So individual contributors, individual suggestions, and mature lean companies get, 1, 2, or more suggestions of this type per person per month would be not unusual. So that would be the quick and easy Kaizen kind of approach to improvement, and we like that. The other type of improvement, though, is what's sometimes called ChiKaku. So that's big improvement, right, or bigger project. And the term we use for ChiKaku is mixed model line design or mixed model manufacturing. So line design and materials.
Yeah, think about the redesign of the line, the redesign of the material system. It doesn't need to be the entire line. It could be the rebalancing of a process or the rebalancing of a portion of the line. Think big project. It's not the 2-hour project or the 1 day, 2 day Kaizen event. We're talking here about a major redesign. And what we're about to share with you is not made up, and it's not an estimation. This is an actual study made by Toyota as to where the benefits come from. You will see at Toyota that they push Kaizen all day, every day. But when you ask them why, it's never about the money. It's about engagement. They actually prove that from the financial standpoint, approximately 10% of the benefits come from the Kaizen activity, while 90% of the financial benefits, dollar-wise, come from the big projects, the redesign of the line, the rebalancing, right? They use the term ChiKaku. We like to use the term mixed model line design. So that is a fact, a study that they did, and something that you have to consider. Kaizen, very important, but Kaizen is in support of a line design to improve flow. Why Kaizen? To improve flow. That is what you have to turn into your mantra. Why Kaizen? To improve flow and to engage. That is what you're looking for. Everybody participating in the improvement of flow. Because if you don't, you're going to start seeing your gains. You're going to start seeing the loss of those gains.
Sure. And you can spend the rest of your lean career working on Kaizen events. And if you're only focusing on that 10%, then at the end of that career, you're not going to have that much to show for it, unfortunately. But, everything's good. It's just that, that's not where the big improvements are. So here's a graphic that I think helps to explain this. So, Jar, do you want to walk us through this?
Yeah, so if you look at the red line and the blue line, those two at the beginning, the first three periods, and again, the periods are made up, and the vertical axis, think of it as an axis of performance, right? Could be number of units, could be productivity, is an axis of performance, and the horizontal axis, the x-axis, is an axis of time. So period 1, period 2, you're operating at a certain performance level and and then you do a line redesign, and what you see is there between period 3 and period 4, you see when you bring the line live, you have a step function in performance. From that point on, you have two choices: do nothing or do Kaizen. You see that first step function in performance? That is the line redesign. That is that 90%. From that point on, if you look at a more granular level, the blue line, that's the Kaizen line. Very small step improvements, moving you out into the future, making small improvements over time. While the red line shows the potential degradation of those processes. And one great principle we heard at Toyota, and we're lucky enough to work with them, is any process that is not improving is degrading. Well, but we did everything possible to stabilize the process. We put in place a standard work, and we did all these great things. If you do nothing to the process, it will degrade. The only way to prevent the process from degrading is to implement Kaizen and improve it forever. So that's pretty much what this is trying to show. If you look at a more granular level, you would see that blue line is made of very, very small steps.
So if you didn't have the step function, then to extend, if you just had Kaizen, then to extend that blue line out to the same level as the step jump would take you a lot longer, right? You could just
a lot longer.
Just move that blue line down to 20, right, and just extend
exactly. And it would take a lot longer. And the other problem may be that unless you have the focus provided by that step function, it may take even longer because you lack the focus. You're not focusing on flow.
Okay, so let's continue on. Now, we have a couple offers for you. Actually, we have 3 offers, and this is the first one. I know that some of these slides, depending on what kind of device you're listening to this webinar on, could be hard to see, but you'll be able to download a copy of what we're calling the Line Design Roadmap. So this is I think it's about a 15-page document. Oh, well, it says it right here, 15-page document. Don't have to guess.
I don't think, I know.
Yeah, I know for sure. And if you look on the right side of your screen, you should be able to download a copy of this in PDF format. So it's the flow chart itself showing the steps that we follow when we engage with a client. This is the line design process that we follow. And then in this PDF, you'll see down below each of the graphic images, a description, a little more detail describing each of those steps.
Yeah, and one thing for you to consider, if you came across our roadmap in the past, this is the improved version, and that's what we're calling it 2.0. It is the improved version. If you had our old copy, you probably remember that every one of those activities had like a text box explaining what it was
on the same slide, right?
On the same slide,
yeah.
And we felt it was a little it was clouding the view of the actual process. So when you download it, you're going to see that at the bottom, all the comments are there. So it's pretty well scripted. So we invite you to download it. As you can tell, we charge a decent buck for it, and as a thank you for coming back to us, because frankly we have not been good to you, our webinar listening audience. We got very busy, and now we're getting back on this. So as a thank you to you for sticking with us, we're giving you this for free. So, but not forever. So download it too.
Okay, so you'll have that available. If some of the slides on when we start talking about the roadmap are hard to see, then you should be able to look at the full size copy of it. All right. So let's get into it. We call this webinar the ultimate value stream. So ultimate or the best possible value stream design includes some characteristics. So ultimate, I guess in general, means that if we were to design a value stream using this methodology, that you couldn't beat it. You couldn't come up with a better design given a level playing field, assuming the same processes, the same kind of equipment, et cetera. If you put together some line design teams to compete, you couldn't beat this design if you follow this methodology. You'd have the ultimate line design. And so we'll go through some of the characteristics of what do we want to achieve with this ultimate line design? What are some of the characteristics of the absolute best?
And we're talking improvements, and we have proven this. We have done this many times. We have seen improvements up to 90% or thereabouts in manufacturing cycle time. So we have had lines that we designed where we went from 4 weeks of lead time down to 4 days. So this is not made up. This is not magic. It's just a methodology to get you there. So the idea of minimum manufacturing cycle time, MCT manufacturing cycle time, is designing a line capable of building product in its work content time or less. That's the goal.
Yeah, MCPT, by the way, in case you're wondering what that is, manufacturing critical path time. So that's another way of saying MCT. I know Quick Response Manufacturing, one of the better known books on lean, uses that term, MCPT. So it really means the same thing. It's from launch of a product to completion of that product. And one of our goals is to have a design that minimizes that by doing as much work as possible in parallel, by optimizing the flow, by eliminating queue time. We want to achieve that minimum MCT. All right?
The next one, high quality. And here again, we're not talking about implement expensive methods to check quality. The one methodology we push very hard and we strongly encourage our clients to follow, and everybody who comes to class, is this technique called check to check. And check to check, the cost of it is approximately zero. It costs nothing to implement. I don't know, maybe it'll cost you a few seconds of standard time, right? But it's virtually free. It is incredibly powerful, and it has the ability to increase the quality of the product and the process enormously. I myself remember designing a line that built home theater systems, right? Primarily a collection of speakers, and decreasing workmanship-related errors by 75% in a week, with the expense of chopsticks. I am not kidding. We use chopsticks. And the goal of chopsticks, and people call it a quality stick, to point at the quality target areas. Amazing. 75% in 1 week. It did happen to me and one of my clients. And this is just one example. Richard, you target the productivity one.
Okay, so high productivity. So the percentage of time that a worker on the floor is actually adding value versus the time that they're doing other things like walking, selecting parts, moving, making decisions, doing rework, all of those kinds of non-value adding activities is something we want to optimize. And the way we're going to approach high productivity starts with standard work. So I think probably most of you are familiar with that concept, and then being able to train people to do standard work. So that's really the foundation. So we're designing the work that is being done to focus on those value-adding steps, and especially at the design stage, doing what we can to eliminate the things that are not adding value. If you take, by the way, a video of your existing current state, go out on the factory floor and videotape people working, and then have a chance to sit down and watch that video carefully, what you're going to find in most places, I think it's a safe statement to say, in most places, you're going to find quite a high level of hidden non-value added activity. In other words, things that you're not recording normally, but you can see on a video when you have a chance to slow it down and watch it carefully. Things like just part selection, reaching out, finding the right parts, picking them, arranging them. Just that alone can sometimes be a shockingly high percentage of the total time that an operator spends. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons why, and this is kind of a side comment, that there seems to be a movement towards doing more kitting than we encouraged in the past, because we're starting to see that people on the factory floor are spending a lot of their time acquiring the things that they need to do work, which of course falls in the category of non-value added activity. And final comment on this one, when you see a mature lean environment and do the same thing, watch very closely, what you're going to be impressed with is the percentage of time that people are actually able to add value in a more consistent way, right? Support that flow more consistently, because at the end of the day, if you're not adding value, you're not supporting the flow, right? The product is not advancing forward.
Yeah, right? So, and a couple more comments about that, which I really don't want to let this one slip. What Richard just commented on speaks to the true scientific nature of how we design lines. As Richard mentioned, in the past, we used to refer to kitting as the mother, the father, the mother-in-law of all evil, right? And over time, we learned that the kitting we were against was the MRP-driven kitting. And now we're actually doing more kitting. Why? Because it improves productivity. And as Richard mentioned, productivity gains start with standard work. But once you design a line, and we have proven this during this very week, in simulation modeling for one of our clients, is flexing. That's the other technique you will learn when you come to class. Flexing is, again, one technique that pretty much costs nothing. I will say that, and tell me, Richard, if you agree with this statement, it's a little more challenging to implement than check to check, because it requires people to look at the work as teamwork, not just my station, right? Just, I am the guy who installs engines. Well, no, you're the guy who builds the tractor, the fork truck, or the car, or the refrigerator. You're not just the guy who puts the engine, the motor. You participate in the building of the product, and sometimes you may move downstream or upstream to support other workstations. So enough about productivity.
But you're raising a good point.
Yeah,
I mean, Gerard, the issue of flexing, it's shocking, actually, the kind of productivity jump you can find if you can get people to move to where the work needs to get done instead of waiting for it to come to them. We're not talking about a few percentage points. We're talking about 20 or 30% productivity gains are possible, depending on where you are today. So it's actually quite shocking that kind of low-hanging fruit.
And the cost is pretty much nothing, because people come into work for one shift and they still work for one shift with or without flexing.
Yeah, so watch your videos, and are people actually moving where work is available to be done in a disciplined way, or are they standing and waiting for the product to come to them?
Interesting, just a quick anecdote on that. We have a client with whom we've been working since 1996. So we know each other, right? But they have, many plants around the world. So there is always work to be done. And it took us until, what would you say, Richard, when this confusion about flexi was cleared up? I mean, it took a long time until we both, the client and us, were able to realize that we were not talking about the same thing when we were talking flexing. They wouldn't even want to hear the word flexing, because the misconception was walking around looking for stuff to do. That is not flexing. Flexing is based on a process and a procedure and on demand signals. And you will learn that when you come to class. So let me move to the next two.
Yeah, maybe we need to move along too. I'm looking at the clock.
Exactly. Yeah. So the other two, the next two, notice that they say optimal and not minimal. Because if there's one thing that irks me, is this idea of go reduce inventory. It's not about reducing inventory. It's about not needing the inventory, not needing as much floor space, because the line was properly designed. So you will reach optimal inventory, optimal amount of floor space. And again, flexible workforce goes to this idea of implementing the technique called flexing, and you will learn that when you come to class. And also, the idea of flexible schedule comes from the fact that when you have a short manufacturing cycle time, you can change quickly. You don't have to wait for the next 3 weeks until you clear the entire batch. Batches are, unless you have substantial changeover, batches are pretty much outlawed in a flow line. So let's move on to the actual roadmap. So Richard, you will walk us through this, and
this is one of the slides where it might be hard to see on your screen if your screen size is a little small. But again, do not be concerned. You've hopefully downloaded the source document, and you'll be able to see this in more detail. And again, I'm looking at the clock. It's 12:36 East Coast time. So we'll try to do this in an efficient way as possible. Now, we have a couple different levels in our roadmap. So the 15 pages you'll be downloading include a top level, which is what you see here, and then basically every top level has a detailed level below that. So a sub-level, sub-roadmap. So anytime you see the little drill icon, that means drill down, very cleverly, right? Clever icon, drill down to more detail. So this is the very high-level view of the line design process. We have a roadmap similar to this one, or at least similar looking, that's focused on the material management. So mixed model material management. And this one is focused on the workflow. So in this particular roadmap, we're looking at things like standard work, line balancing, the calculations of takt time, and resource calculations, those kind of issues focused on the work that people are doing. And we like to say that the work and the materials are the two wings of a bird, so you need both. But because of the issues of material delivery are substantially different from the issues of designing a workflow, we have them as two separate wings, but they need to come together, obviously.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, we used to teach much of this together, and now we have split it. We teach mixed model line design, mixed model material management. That's all we teach.
Well, it's knowledge creep, right? It's knowledge creep. So as we've evolved,
and then you end up doing a disservice to all the knowledge. What you have to do is go deep, and again, don't let the simplicity of this flowchart fool you. If you look, for example, at activity 1.2, you're going to see that it says gather data, right? Well, if you drill down, gathering data is a lot of work. A lot of work. Products, processes, volumes. It's a lot of work. So don't let the simplicity of this fool you. If we go to the next slide, what you're going to see is that we're displaying the drill down. Yeah, let's go ahead and move.
Right.
You're going to see this is the drill down for just one of the activities, activity 1.1, which we always recommend starting with a proper assessment. Everything you see a little triangle there, person at work, it suggests that there is work to be done. Some data to be gathered, a value stream map to be created.
Some kind of deliverable, right?
Exactly right. So as you can tell, most of them have some sort of a deliverable. And the idea is for you to create a proper master plan before you move forward. We're not suggesting a format for the master plan because every company has one, right? But then again, you don't want to get in the business of just writing here. What you want to do is have quick deliverables that you can refer to and understand when you are designing the line, are done designing the line. Did you accomplish what you set out to do? So that's just this one.
You know, these roadmaps could actually be kind of like a house of mirrors, like at an amusement park. I don't know if you've ever been into these house of mirrors where, you know, when you have two mirrors that are facing each other, and you look at it at the right angle, you see an infinite number of mirrors, right? Keeps reflecting back. So this is level 2 of the roadmap, but you could easily take any of these activities and have another roadmap below that, you know, and maybe below that. I mean, the level of detail we could get into, you know, could be not exactly infinite, but certainly below just a high level and then a one level below.
Yeah, I think a good way to look at it is we stopped at the process level, at the activity level. We did not go into the standard work level. We're not telling you this is how you do value stream mapping. Yeah. We're telling you need to do a value stream map. However, I had to tell you, when it comes to value stream mapping, I never ceased to be appalled of how incorrectly some folks do or teach value stream mapping. I mean, we got out of that business. I mean, we do teach value stream mapping for some consulting clients, but we got out of the business of teaching that stuff. But some people think that it's just about throwing together a flow chart, right? And not focus on what's really important, and that is understanding the flow and putting together a proper list of continuous improvement suggestions for the value stream. I remember one activity Richard and I did. Remember, Richard, that we showed up at a value stream activity, and our team, and I think this is our record, 75 people. We never had that. And we had to split. Richard and I split. Richard, you did the emergency department to telemetry, and I did street to the OR, and we ended up gathering 120 some opportunities for improvement for those value streams. So
we said, hey, who's taking care of patients today?
Exactly.
Everyone's in the value stream.
Yeah, it was really remarkable.
Patients.
I've never had anything like that ever again, but it was actually pretty awesome. And it's not uncommon for us to see that level of finding opportunities for improvement when we do value stream mapping. It's not about the flowchart; it's about what you extract from the flowchart. So make sure that you get proper training on that.
Okay. The other thing that's worth mentioning is that when we use this roadmap kind of structure, that doesn't it doesn't mean that this roadmap came down from Mount Olympus, right? Or it wasn't discovered in the woods in New York on some gold tablets. We made it up based on our 20 plus years of experience.
Made it up doesn't sound very technical.
That's right. Made it up. We created it based on our 20 plus years of experience, but it doesn't mean that every size, one size fits all, or it doesn't mean that you can't change it. But what it does do is give you a lot of structure to eliminate the kind of the confusion that can happen if you don't have a roadmap when you're trying to launch a large improvement project. What do we do first? What do we do second? What is the timeline? How long should these things take? What should we be focused on? If you don't have a roadmap or a structure like this, then you can waste a lot of time on things that should be routine, right? And that takes time away from the kind of inevitable creative challenges that you're going to run into. That couldn't be possibly documented. Yeah, they can't be possibly documented in a roadmap because they're unique to you. So you want to have the time freed up to focus on those unique challenges that are unique to your environment and not have to focus on the routine stuff. And so the roadmap is very helpful in terms of giving you that structure.
And our classes follow the roadmap. So moving on.
I think one other thing I remember, Gerard, when we were new consultants going out on the road, going to a customer site, the recommendation was always this: if you get confused about where are we, what should we be doing next, just go back to the roadmap or go back to our training or go back to the methodology and rely on that.
Absolutely.
And that turned out to be good advice.
Which, by the way, Richard, when you said we created this on the basis of our 20 years of experience, I'm sorry, you're trying to make yourself look young. We're in our third decade of doing this. I just did some quick numbers. We're in our third decade. So,
oh man! Well, we're inside the third decade, right? We haven't finished the third decade. Okay, I said 20 plus.
I had curly hair when we started doing this.
Yeah, I had brown hair. Okay, so I think we can leave it at that because we could, we do spend 3 full days on this roadmap in our line design class. But let's continue on. The other final point before we get to the final 2 offers that we want to make to you, this concept of information versus education. And we want to make sure that we're focused on education, getting educated in this line design process and not simply sharing facts or information. So let's just share with you kind of what we mean by information, just pure information, because let's face it, information today is cheap and easily available and not always correct either. But 20 years ago, we didn't have Google. Today, you can find just about anything on any subject. In fact, side story, I just recently built a guitar. I'm a guitar player, and I'd always wanted to kind of buy one of these kits where I'm not actually doing the woodworking, but there's enough challenge to the finishing and fitting and fretwork, etc. And everything I needed to know, to be honest, was available to me on YouTube. Right, every little detail of fretwork, of finishing the body, all kinds of choices, electronics, wiring, you name it. So that's incredible. But so information these days, pure information is not lacking. It's there, but that's not going to be sufficient. So information, it tends to be passive. Batch knowledge, meaning it's coming in a chunk. Right?
You get it all at once.
You get it all at once.
It rains on you, and how do you process that? As Richard mentioned, he is a guitar player. I'm a motorcycle rider, and I like to do my own maintenance. So I find on YouTube a video on how to do something. It's actually good, but if I try to remember everything in the video and then go do it on my motorcycle, forget it. That won't work. So it is batch knowledge. And what you need is the step approach like what we have on that roadmap.
Yep. So batch is not batch manufacturing. Batch is getting a whole book on something. And really what you need is just to know one specific thing at a specific time, right? When you're doing this, you're pretty much on your own. Say, go back to reading a book. You're pretty much on your own. You don't have a teacher or a mentor to help you with that. You got to figure it out yourself. Back in the early days of Lean, we had a bunch of oftentimes photocopied. Well, Gerard, you were in Argentina at that time, so you probably remember
illegally photocopied.
Yeah, someone had a book, and you didn't want to. You're a poor student as well, so you didn't want to go buy the book, and Amazon didn't exist either. So you'd take the book down to your local photocopying store and copy it on a copy machine, right? So, but pretty much you're on your own to try to figure it out. Yeah. No inherent results. So there's no inherent benefit coming out of that. Again, you're entirely on your own to do that. Slippery knowledge in the sense that not very well supported or documented.
In other words, you will forget. By the end of reading that book, you pretty much forgot half of it.
Half if you're lucky.
Half if you're lucky. So that's what we mean by slippery knowledge.
Yeah. Cost. Well, cost tends to be low, if we're talking about the internet or YouTube.
Yeah, and right now people are assuming that all this stuff should be free, which and you see it even in the world of music, and frankly, I find that a little appalling. So,
yeah, okay, so that's what we mean by information. Again, there's no lack of this, so you might be tempted to just pursue this route. But let's look at what we mean by education and compare and contrast that.
So, are we against training? No. That's what we do. Are we against books? No. We've written 7. So we're not against any of that, but we learned over time that that's not enough. And that's one of the reasons why you're about to hear one of our offers today, which is instead of just giving you our training materials, our books, what we want to provide and what we are now working with our clients to do is to get you certified. A certification program that allows you to advance step by step. So now, instead of being passive information, you have active information. I finish something, right? I finish a lesson. Now this is what you go do.
So there are various levels of activity, all the way from being tested on what you've learned to actually hopefully applying it.
Absolutely.
in a simulation environment, or the best of all, applying it in the real world, right?
Yeah.
On an actual project, right? So flow knowledge.
Instead of being rained on, think about lessons one chunk at a time. You finish a lesson, and now you have an activity to do. And as a matter of fact, our online workshop, my Mixed Online Design, is 22 lessons.
Something. Yeah.
So, and we work really hard to keep them under 40 minutes. If not, you just, you get bored and forget.
Yep. Okay. Coached. So you have an instructor, right, or someone who is able to not only clarify your own doubts, but bring to the table things that are not included in the basic training, like case histories, experience, so that's tremendously important. In fact, you might even make a case that one of the secrets of the Toyota production system that other companies are finding very hard to copy is this idea of internal coaches. Not simply conveying information, but coaching people along the way. Inherent deliverables. So you saw in the roadmap those blue triangles. So we're defining along the path, along this journey of mixed model line design, the deliverables at each stage, right? Each phase, in a very, very clear way. It could be a report, it could be some calculations, it could be a spreadsheet, it could be a flow chart, but there are some inherent deliverables along the way, as opposed to reading a book where there are no deliverables.
Mm-hmm. Or just taking the class passively.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and do, well, sticky knowledge, the opposite to slippery knowledge.
Yeah, and, stuff you remember.
Finally, the idea of education is that instead of costing you, it actually yields results. So you see financial benefits. So let's move on. Yeah, go ahead.
One more thing. When we talk about revenue, do you remember, Gerard, in the past, one of the things I guess we still say, but we used to, I remember saying back even in the early days, is that the investment you make in education is not really a cost, right? Because the payback should be fast enough and large enough to more than pay for it. Yeah. If it doesn't, then why would you do it?
Exactly.
Right. So think of it as a revenue. Okay. So a couple opportunities coming up. We'll make this quick, but we have one that's sort of coming up quickly. On February 20th to the 22nd, so 3 days, we have a mixed model line design workshop where we go through the roadmap that we're sharing with you, but we'll be there live, and it's a 3-day class at one of North America's best plants. This is the Toyota Material Handling Factory in Columbus, Indiana. So it's the major fork truck manufacturing plant for Toyota for North America, and they export to, I think, another 20 countries. It's about, 1 million plus square feet, about 1,500 employees. That's the size of the place. And for the last 5 or 6 years, they've been inviting us in to teach this class. We're not teaching it to Toyota. I think they already know this, but they're willing to open their doors to
I'm pretty certain.
Yeah, yeah, I think they do. So it's a public class, but hosted by Toyota. They have a beautiful training facility, and it includes a couple plant tours, led by Toyota experts, lunch Q&A sessions with Toyota experts. So there's quite a lot of of engagement with the Toyota folks, but it's a class that we would be teaching internally. So it's really a great.
Just one little caveat, folks. You're all invited. We really want to see you all. If you work for a competitor, if you work for Crown or Linda, give us a call.
Heister.
Right?
Yeah, Heister.
Heister. Yeah. We love you all. Just give us a call. Don't show up. Don't show up unannounced.
Yeah, they've been very open about sharing, but
yeah, right. So we want to see you in that class, and to make sure we see you, we have an early bird discount of $300. But if you sign up soon using that webinar code there, we'll double that as a thank you for attending this webinar.
Yeah.
So
Leonardo,
it's not forever.
Right.
Yeah, it's not forever.
And you'll be getting an email to remind you about that. All right. Next offer. If you can't make it to Toyota, understand it's it's a week, but it's an investment of the week if you include travel and so on.
Yeah.
So it's quite a serious. I think it's more than worth it because you're there. This is going to affect the rest of your life. You'll remember this for the rest of your life if
nothing else, just go to the website to sign up. If you cannot afford the time, just look for the comments, and you will see some people saying a transformative experience.
Yeah, but we do have an option if you can't make it to that, and that's the Mixed Model online course. So we've taken the class that we're teaching at Toyota and we put it online. Basically, the same information. Of course, you don't get a Toyota plant tour as part of an online class, but basically the content and the roadmap approach and the exercises and online exams, et cetera, is very similar to what you would experience in the Toyota class. So same kind of thing. Now, beyond the online course, we've added a certification module, what that means, or program. What that means is it's not simply a matter of taking an online class. If you want to get formal recognition for your efforts and your knowledge, you have to pass a final exam. It's at least a couple hours online, broken down into pieces, but online exam on mixed model line design. And then you have to do a project that we'll provide to you. So we'll provide you with some base data, and you have to basically come up with a line design. And if you can complete all that successfully, we'll be the judge of that. Then you can earn a formal certification, like a diploma in mixed model line design, certified in mixed model line design. So,
by the way, folks, a comparable program. Well, I don't think there is any comparable program to this because this is mixed model line design, not just generic lean. But if you look for any reputable generic lean certification, it is thousands of dollars. We made this very, very affordable because we believe, we know this is the knowledge you need, and also use that that code will give you 40% discount. So this is in the hundreds of dollars. So please get this. You will be a much more valuable asset to your company and to yourself.
But it is a serious commitment. You know, spending a week at Toyota is a serious commitment. This is a serious commitment. It requires some more self-discipline, right, to complete it. But here you go. So both of these offers you can find on our website, leonardogroupamericas.com. But again, you'll be getting an email with a reminder on that. All right. So just as a final mention, we've set up a platform for all of our lean training called Lean Design Institute. And so this is our learning management system where all of our courses are available. So we not only have the mixed model line design course that we're just talking about now, but we have a material management class online and hospital training, et cetera. So this is our main platform for all of those kinds of training activities. So you can check it out there, leandesigninstitute.com. Okay, with that, 12:59. Boy, aren't we good?
Well, first of all, folks, I'm sorry for that initial mix-up. Hopefully you enjoyed the webinar. And before we say goodbye, would you do us a big favor as a way of saying goodbye? Just tell us where you are listening from. This is something we always do at the beginning. We'd like to hear where you're listening from. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and turn on my camera so I can say a proper goodbye to everybody. And then in the comments, let us know where you are listening from. Massachusetts, great. San Jose, California, beautiful. Kansas, Montreal, thank you. Buenos Aires, hey, una compatriota mía, Raquel, gracias por conectarte. Bulgaria, lovely. So, British Columbia, Russia, thank you, Pavel. So, thank you all, Ramiro, gracias por conectarte. Thank you all for being here with us today. Right at the 1 hour mark, we are ready to say goodbye. And thank you all. And see you next time. We promise we will be better in the future and continue doing these webinars at a frequency that honors your commitment to us. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye now.